You're watching Chilly Boy Productions. I'm Larry Chilly Boy Chilson, and this is my review for Kraven the Hunter. Now, before we get into this review, make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button down below so that you can chill with me on each and every one of my latest videos. Kraven the Hunter is a 2024 action sci-fi film that serves as an adaptation of the character from Marvel Comics. Kraven's complex relationship with his ruthless father starts him down a path of vengeance, motivating him to become not only the best hunter in the world, but also the most feared. The film stars Aaron Taylor Johnson as our titular hero, anti-hero, Kraven, Russell Crowe, Ariana DeBose, Christopher Abbott, Alessandro Nivola, and Fred Heckinger. So we just recently found out that Kraven the Hunter is officially the last film in Sony's Spunk universe. The Spider-Man universe over at Sony, where we have a bunch of Spider-Man villains that don't have anything to do with Spider-Man. And this little miniature Sonyverse has been a pretty unmitigated disaster. Creatively, a disaster almost top to bottom, and financially, a disaster almost top to bottom. Literally, the only saving grace in any fashion of this mini universe has been the Venom series. But we were told this is it. We won't have to suffer any longer through this universe. So that at least gave audiences something to look forward to when it came to Kraven the Hunter. Needless to say, it felt like the world had already written this film off long before anyone had even laid eyes on this thing. And it's been getting ravaged online across the internet. Some even saying worse than Madam Web from the same universe just earlier this year. And I have to say, well, it's not good. It's actually a really poorly made film. But I didn't hate my time watching it. It was bad, but fun bad. And I would take this over a Morbius or Madam Web any day of the week. So let's go ahead and kick things off with the positives. Well, look, there aren't many outright positives with this film, to be honest. There's not much that it actually does well, per se. I do think there are some decent enough action set pieces, particularly one that takes place in the jungle where one of our characters is kind of hallucinating, fighting another character. I actually thought that was a pretty effective scene overall. Aaron Taylor Johnson and Ariana DeBose both look absolutely amazing. Like that is a bisexual eye candy on the screen. They look mwah, good. And ultimately, what I think keeps the film afloat and somewhat a fun watch is that it's pretty light-hearted overall. Particularly Aaron Taylor Johnson doesn't play this super straight. He has a cheekiness and arrogance to his performance that I think plays into the overall tone that we're given. It gives you the goofy, it gives you some ridiculous. And look, how can I really hate on a hero who's protecting animal rights, right? Like, come on. I'm a vegan here. It's hard to explain why I had some fun with my viewing experience. I just kind of did. So let's talk about what it doesn't do well and why I think overall it's not a good movie, certainly. Well, it's certainly in contention for one of the worst screenplays of 2024, probably right up there with its Sony counterpart, Madam Web. Just abysmal screenplay. The dialogue in here is atrocious all the way through. And a lot of the delivery is also quite atrocious. Most of these performances are not good, but they were handed a really bad screenplay to begin with. The ADR team, not as bad as Madam Web, Also not very good. I don't know why there was so much dubbing going on in this film, but there's a lot, and you can tell pretty much every single time it happens. The CGI is really bad. I was stunned to learn this film cost over $100 million to make because these animals all looked pretty bad. The lion looked okay. Everything else, yeah. And speaking of animals, why were there water buffalo in Russia? I was very, very confused. Did they just say buffalo and the CGI creators decided to use, like actual water buffalo instead of bison that do live in parts of Russia? I don't know, but I was very confused as to why these water buffalo were roaming in packs in Siberia. But also speaking of animals, rhino. When will we ever see a decent depiction of Rhino on the big screen? Paul Giamatti's version was an over-the-top absolute monstrosity in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and this version, I don't even know what this version was. It was really terrible. The CGI on Rhino was shocking. The lore around Rhino, terrible. The characterization of the character himself, awful. His motivations, you knew exactly when you saw him. That's the ridiculous villain motivation right there. Everything about Rhino was just really bad, and he's our main villain of the film. Though they do proceed to introduce a secondary villain about halfway through, a third of the way through maybe, with Christopher Abbott's character, and I actually thought he was a little bit more interesting of a villain. Didn't require that awful CGI, but what they do with him is laughable. So there you go. The family dynamic could be intriguing. It's on the surface, okay, but that's what this film is, just surface. It doesn't bother really diving into any of that. It doesn't really bother developing any of these characters. They are one note. They're given a personality description of a few words, and that's it. That's as far as they go in the film. They stay within that few word, one sentence description, start to finish. I know to labor on about pacing in a film like this seems ridiculous because actually once it gets moving, I think it's fine pacing wise. We move at a decent enough pace once we get back to present day with Aaron Taylor Johnson. Yes, we needed the flashback stuff because we needed that kind of origin, I guess, and to set up what was coming later. But my God, when we're in the past, it drags bad. And I think maybe we could have found a different way to do it, to quickly do that and still find a way to better establish Russell Crowe's horrible father character, his very one-note father character, their relationship, the whole bit. But still, even though the film is bad, and I just listed off why it's really not good, I didn't hate watching it. I thought there was some fun to be had amongst the madness. I thought the line delivery was fun in not great ways a lot of the time, but it made the bad dialogue entertaining in its own way. The bad CGI had some charm to it, particularly when you see Aaron Taylor Johnson jumping around doing these crazy animal-like things. Watching Aaron Taylor Johnson actually be this weird animal guy was, again, ridiculous, but in an entertaining fashion. I didn't mind seeing Aaron Taylor Johnson shirtless, though we could have used a whole lot more of it. I don't know. It's kind of a throwback to the early 2000s type of over the top, ridiculous, not serious, not good comic book movies that you still don't mind watching for some reason. And at the end of the day, I'll take that kind of ridiculous, bad comic book movie over the boring slogs that we've gotten in stuff like Madam Web or Morbius, Fan Four Stick, the miserable, bad comic book movies any day of the week. Honestly, I'd easily actually even put this above Let There Be Carnage. I don't know. It's bad, but it's also kind of fun. And if I say so myself, I think maybe it's getting ragged on just a touch too much by the folks out there. So that's my review for Kraven the Hunter. At this point, I feel like you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting yourself into. If you're in for that kind of time at the movies, give it a shot. Why not? Maybe you'll get the perfect audience to actually have a great time out at the theater. Otherwise, just save your money, because you know what you're gonna get. And the universe is ended now anyway, so not like you need to know what's happening. So that was my review for Kraven the Hunter. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click that like button down below and subscribe to the channel so that you are always up to date on all of my latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. What did you think of Kraven the Hunter? Let me know either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up over on Blue Sky. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.